Let me show you my favorite tips and tricks for using ChatGPT to make the most of it. And the first tip on this list is to use ChatGPT with an info drop mode. And what I mean by this is that, for example, if we take, let's say, a news article or a blog post or basically any kind of data and we paste it here to ChatGPT without telling it anything, it will automatically start to process the data. And that is annoying because if you want to add multiple sources, multiple pieces of content or multiple data sources to ChatGPT, you can't really do it because ChatGPT will automatically start to process the information already. And to avoid this, I have crafted this simple little prompt that says as follows. I will be sending you several pieces of information. Your role is to simply acknowledge that you've received each one. Once I've shared everything, I'll provide additional instructions on what to do next. Please wait for these instructions after all the details have been sent. If I send that to the AI, and for example, I go back here and take this same piece of content that I showed earlier, and I will send it to it without instructions, ChatGPT is simply going to tell me, acknowledge, please proceed with the next piece of information. So this is pretty handy. So the AI is pausing the AI text creation process until I give it some instructions. And for example, if you're using a MacBook, what you can do here is you can take this prompt, you can go to your system settings, you can scroll down to where it says keyboard, then you can click on text replacements, then you can click on plus. In this with section, you can add the prompt, and then into this replace section, you can give it a name. So for example, info drop. And now what happens is that once I click add and done, and I come here, I start a new chat, and I type in info drop, it will automatically replace that with the prompt that I showed you earlier. Then as the next super useful tip to use ChatGPT is by asking it for help based on your images. For example, you can tell it to help you when you're building a product or when you are doing something where you actually don't have an idea what you need to do next. So for example, I just received this LED light and I have no idea how to use it. So I took this image and right now I'll be sending it to ChatGPT and I will ask, help me to use this. And that's all. And now the ChatGPT will analyze this image and it will probably notice the device that I'm holding in my hand and it will give me these instructions as we can see. And this is perfect. So it's telling me how to power it off, how to add brightness and color temperature, how to charge the device, how to mount it on something, and other tips for using this device. And this saves me from the hassle of having to call to the retailer of this product or having to look through these tutorials that are flooded with advertisements and product recommendations. So this is super practical, and it's also helpful if you're trying to build something. For example, if you have pieces of furniture that you are supposed to put together when you want to, for example, build a chair, then you can just tell ChatGPT that I have these pieces, can you help me to the next step? So that's pretty awesome. And I still can't believe that this is the way that AI works these days. Now, one really practical way to use AI is by toning down your messages or basically professionalizing your messages. So for instance, if I have something that looks like this, so I'm cursing a lot and I'm verbally assailing somebody, I can send this to the AI if I want to, but I can also say to the AI that make this professional and tone it down. And then the AI will take this original message and it will create a professional looking email that I can actually send to somebody without burning the bridges. Now, one really cool way to use ChatGPT is by simply asking it for best practices. So if there's something that you're not familiar with, you can ask ChatGPT. For example, I was once in a situation where my business partner asked me to introduce my colleague to them via email, and I have no idea how to do those introductory emails, so all I did was ask ChatGPT. And once again, this is not rocket science. All I'm telling the AI is that I want to introduce my co-founder or colleague to my business partner. I have to understand how to write the email and how to send it in a proper way, so how I should add those CCs and whatnot. And then I'm letting the AI also know just a little bit about my co-founder, just so that it can actually whip up the entire email. And as you can see, once again, the AI starts to do its job and it's doing it pretty much perfectly. So this is a full-on email that I can now send. And as you can also see, it said that I can send this email to Bob and add CC Alice, so she's part of the conversation from the start. So obviously you can ask for best practices in basically anywhere where you go or anything that you do. Now, one of the best ways to get better outputs from AI is by assigning it a role. So for example, you can tell it to be a lawyer, or for example, you can say that you are a personal trainer. And just as an example here, I have told the AI that you are a senior developer in my team. I am a junior developer and you're my supervisor. Give me instructions with helpful examples, stuff like that. And then I'm asking, can you explain recursion? Right now, instead of getting a generic response where the recursion is explained in simple terms, I am getting this kind of a complete explanation. And on top of that, I believe that it is going to give me some real life practical situations where we might use recursion, because that would be beneficial for somebody who is working in my team as a supervisor to teach to a junior developer or junior level worker. So for example, here, real life analogy, common issues, examples, when to use recursion. So these are all things that the AI tells me because they want me to be a better team member in this team of software developers, because I told that you're my supervisor and a senior level developer. So this is pretty amazing. And this is also in general true. So if you give better context for the AI, it will give you these better outputs. And now, speaking of adding context to your prompts, the more information you give AI, the better responses you're going to get. So for example, if I do this kind of a generic query on ChatGPT, for example, 5 things to do in the countryside to not get bored, it will give me a very generic answer. This is how you would use Google, and this will give you not so suitable results or answers because the AI doesn't know much about you. These are just some generic things. And although in this situation it might be fine, these are good suggestions already, in some situations it might make sense to add a lot more information. So for example, here is a prompt that I created where I'm telling the exact situation we're facing. So I have traveled on the countryside, I have 4 kids, small kids, I have a wife who has some back problems, I have a low budget right now and the weather is good. I want to find some things we can do together to not get bored. And this way the AI can instantly tell that, okay, he has some kids, he has a wife, there's a back problem, and there's a budget limitation, the weather is good. It will instantly give me some better and more accurate things to do on the countryside thanks to the information that I added here. So here it's suggesting me very generic things to do, but now it's giving me this nature scavenger hunt, outdoor storytelling with a twist, DIY obstacle course, shadow art or nature crafts, picnic and cloud watching game. So these are much easier for me. These are on budget. These are something that all the people that I have traveling with me can also do. So although I don't know if this is the best example, but you get the point here. So the more information you give the AI, the better responses it will give you. And speaking of providing more context for ChatGPT, one thing you can also do is you can ask ChatGPT to ask you follow-up questions one by one. So you're having this kind of a conversation instead of getting a generic response. And that way you can provide the AI with some more context. So for example, let's first do something like suggest something I could do. I am bored. And now the AI will throw out a ton of different things I could do, but this is a very generic response. So what I can do next is I can ask ChatGPT the same thing, but I can also add something to it. So I will tell follow up with questions to know me better, to give more accurate suggestions. Ask one by one. So now I'm telling the AI that I want to have this kind of a conversation where it's asking me a follow-up question that will then help it to funnel towards the right type of activity for me. So for example, do you enjoy being active or do you prefer something more relaxing? Let's say relaxing. So this is essentially just like a support chat that is helping people that are getting bored. And I created that with like 3 sentences. So that's pretty incredible. You prefer actives that are creative or consuming content? Let's say consuming. Perfect, you're in the mood to just sit back and enjoy something. Do you lean more towards watching video shows, listen to something like podcasts or audiobooks, or reading? Let's do reading. Let's do fiction, novels. And now after asking these couple of questions, we have actually went from this generic list of read something, learn something, get creative, to a much more specific suggestions. So now we have these book recommendations from the AI that it gave me based on the information where I shared that I want to read classic sci-fi novels of fiction. you could never get these accurate results by just telling the AI that you're bored, because there are so many branches it could branch out to based on every single answer here. So if you got like these granular details or these kind of specific suggestions from the AI, it would need to list like a million things before listing these. So this is, I think, a much better way to use AI, by letting it know about yourself by having this kind of a little conversation. So this is almost as if you were talking to a real person that is helping people that are getting bored right now. So this is pretty cool. And now one thing that can save you a lot of time in the long run is by knowing that AI doesn't care about typos. So for example, let's ask the AI, what is the distance to the moon? But I have typed it absolutely incorrectly. So it is almost hard for me to read what it says here. But let's see if the AI gets it done. Yes, so the average distance to the moon from Earth is, and whatnot. So basically, the AI didn't care one bit that the question is laid down like this. And this allows you to type so much faster. So for example, if you could save, let's say, 1 minute per day, every single day of the year, by just ignoring all these typos and grammar mistakes that you do, you will save an entire working day, that is about 6 hours in a year. So that's pretty incredible. So don't worry about the typos, just let the AI know what's your problem, type it in fast. Don't care about the grammar mistakes or subtle details like that, because you're not talking to a real person. You don't have to act professional in front of the AI. Now, one tip to use ChatGPT more accurately is by asking it for links to back up facts. So for example, let's ask it what is the distance to the moon? And instead of just trusting it on it, let's ask it to back up with facts. So now I'm not just asking it to list the number, but I'm also asking it to give me a link where I can find this information from. Obviously, you need to make sure that these links make sense. So sometimes when you use AI and tell it to add some links, it can come up with these imaginary links, or just as well as it can provide you with bad information or outdated or factually incorrect information, it can also give you links to bad resources. So the fact that you're seeing these links right here doesn't mean a thing. So you always need to verify what the AI says. So instead of using this as a tip, it is actually more valuable of a learning lesson or learning opportunity. So do not trust the AI. Whatever it says might be from an outdated resource, or it might just remember incorrectly. So always back up the facts with actually good and useful resources and read those through and make sure that those are trustworthy resources that you would actually recommend to people. And then when it comes to learning something, you can use ChatGPT, but instead of just asking it to explain something, you can tell it to use this Socratic teaching method. So for example, let's tell the AI, teach me how gravity works, and then use the Socratic teaching method. And now it will start to ask you these questions, which will basically guide you towards the right answer, where you have to do the thinking without it just letting you know the answer. And that can be very powerful, because you have to think, and that way you can actually learn much more deeply. So for example, let's answer to this question. What happens when you drop an object? Let's say it falls. Exactly, the pen falls to the ground. Why do you think it falls to the ground instead of floating in the air or moving sideways? Let's say something like the earth pulls it. That's a great observation. The earth pulls it down. What do you think is causing the earth to pull the pen down? And here we get to the gist of gravity. And basically I could continue this on and on and on, and it would teach me this entire concept and notion of gravity by asking me these questions that make me think, and then I will answer, and then the AI will basically deepen my understanding every step of the way. So this is pretty cool. This Socratic teaching method is much more powerful than teaching something by just telling how it is, because there you'll just read it, you will forget it in like 5 seconds. Then when it comes to writing, one of the best ways to use ChatGPT is not just to generate this entire text, chapter, or an essay, email, blog post with AI, because that ends up being so generic. But one thing you can do is you can write it yourself and then ask ChatGPT to take care of all these silly punctuation and grammar mistakes. So for example, here we have a piece of content that I just wrote, and I can upload this to Grammarly. So this is an AI-based grammar police that will analyze your content, and everywhere where it says that there is this red line, there is is a mistake. And I can just tell ChatGPT to get rid of the grammar mistakes without changing the text. Now I have let the AI know that I want to get rid of the mistakes, but the text should remain the same. And here we have it. And if we copy paste this corrected version to Grammarly, we can see that there are no longer those red underlinings. And speaking of improving your writing, once again, I don't recommend using ChatGPT to create content, for example, emails, essays, or blog posts, because those end up being super generic. But one thing I do from time to time is that I always end up in a situation where I explain very simple thing in a very complicated words and in these super long like walls of text. So what I can do with AI is I can tell it to simplify. So I can literally say simplify, and now we get a super long sentence like this into something much more enjoyable like this. And I can do it even shorter. And now you can see that, okay, it says that I usually go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, more when it rains and less in the summer to enjoy the outdoors. And this is exactly the same message that I had here, but here it took like 3 times the number of words to put it together. And then one of the best tips right now is to use this new ChatGPT search functionality instead of using Google as a search engine. So for example, let's type in something like, who is Artturi Jalli? That is me. And I'm not a popular figure, so this is not some common knowledge or common sense knowledge that everybody should know. Yet the AI was able to give me a perfect answer, or at least something that is very close. So Finnish entrepreneur, content creator, affiliate marketer, best known for codinggen.com. Well, I don't know if I'm best known for that because nobody knows the website. It's using kind words for me, but still, this is a really good answer. And this was only because I used ChatGPT as a search engine. So it searched for my name, and then it found these results in the top of the Google search results. So instead of me having to visit all these 10 pages or 20 pages at the top, I can let the AI do that for in 10 seconds, and it will spit out this perfect answer. So if you are bored of watching advertisements, reading biased search results, seeing only commercial content, or reading those super long 3,000 word wall of text about things that could be said in 50 words, just use AI as a search engine. But also remember that these answers are not perfect. So even though these results here look very good to me and very accurate to me, the AI is only reading those search results that exist out there. So if there are bad results that it read, your answer will be bad as well. And there's not much you can do about it. So always make sure to check things before you, for example, share these as facts with somebody else. And then this can be a huge time saver for you if you spend a lot of time reading articles online, but if you don't really care about the entertainment side of things. So for instance, let's say that this is the article that I'm reading, and now it is 17 minutes in reading time, and I just don't have the time to do that. Well, what I can do is I can open up this article, I can click on Command A or Control A if you're on Windows, then Command C or Control C if you're on Windows, and then I can go to ChatGPT and type summarize, and then colon, and then I can paste the whole contents of this website. And the AI will start to summarize this for me. And by the way, if we actually check this site, if I select it all, I have also copy-pasted some of the comments that this blog post has received, as well as these elements that belong to the site, as well as these recommended blog posts. But this does not confuse the AI, so you don't have to spend a second to just highlighting the parts of this blog post and nothing else, but you can just copy-paste it all, throw it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will give you this response. So for example, here we can see now that the response is ready, that it's about 300 words, actually a bit less than 300 words in length. And if we actually take the original prompt, where is the entire page, you can see that that took a good almost 4,000 words. So this is like 12, 13, 15 times less than that. So it will save you like 16 minutes or 15 minutes of your time if you do it this way. So instead of reading through all my experiences and reading through these or watching these images and stuff like that, if you're just there for the information and to learn how to use this product and whatnot, you can just ask the AI to rephrase it in much simpler and shorter terms. And now the next tip is something that none of these ChatGPT gurus will tell you, Because this is not something that sells. This is actually something that will drive their audience away. But because I'm an honest person and I want to teach as much as possible, I will let you know this. So you can use ChatGPT as a prompt engineer. And don't worry if you're not familiar with the term, I will explain that to you first. So that sounds way too technical and way too complicated compared to what it actually is. So prompt engineering means that you craft these AI inputs, that is, these messages that you're sending to ChatGPT, in a way to get the best result. Well, that sounds still a bit technical, but all that actually is letting the AI know exactly what your problem is. So instead of typing in something like, I want to eat pizza, you will tell the AI something like, we're out here in Helsinki with 6 friends and want to eat pizza. We're all on budget as we're a group of students. It's 11 p.m. by the way. And now the AI will give me recommendations instead of like this generic, I want to eat pizza. Now it's going to give me recommendations based on searches that it did online that will be suitable for our group of people. And it will actually even give me this map these days that it will show me these pizzerias here in Helsinki, which is insane. But that is basically what prompt engineering is. So you need to craft these AI inputs in a clever way to contain all the information the AI should know before giving you the answer for it to give you the best answer. And now here's the cool part. You don't need to do this. You can use AI to do this as well. Yes, you can tell the AI to create a message that then you can send back to AI. And now let me show you a concrete example. So here I have told the AI that you are a prompt engineer. Can you give me a prompt for creating the most epic award-winning piece of art that captures a mountainous scenery during the sunset? And now here you can see that the AI is creating this kind of a super long and detailed input. And now the idea here is that I will send this back to the AI. So I will literally take this prompt and I will copy paste it here and I will send it back to the AI. And now the AI will render this image where I asked this prompt for based on this AI generated prompt. I know that it sounds confusing, but all I'm literally trying to do is that because I can't whip up something like this, I can't create fancy words and prompts like this, I asked AI to prompt itself. The result is breathtaking. So in short, prompt engineering is just letting the AI know about the details that you want it to know before it gives you an answer. If you're not confident in writing these super long prompts, and if you don't know what to ask the AI, ask it to tell you what to ask. And then this is kind of a no-brainer, but something that most don't think about, at least when it comes to what I have seen people using AI. Use AI for inspiration. And for example, I am a blogger and I write a lot of blog posts. But I never write those with AI because the content is too generic and it doesn't read my thoughts and thus it doesn't really add anything to the table. But what I can do is I can tell the AI to give me some inspiration. So just as an example, tell me how to write an absolute best blog post about how to tie shoelaces so that it will be better than anything what already exists. And now I am letting the AI know that I want to outperform every one of my competitors and I just don't want a generic piece of content. And here you can see some ideas that the AI is giving me that I might not think before I write. So research your competition, create irresistible headline, start with a hook, use a clear step-by-step instructions, add visuals, explain why and how. There are so many things that I can actually do and implement before writing this kind of a blog post. This applies to homework, essays, emails, academic research papers, and basically wherever you write content that is a bit longer than just a couple of sentences, it is so crucial that you make it stand out by going the extra mile and doing more work than what people generally do, because otherwise you're just creating like a generic piece of content that doesn't really add anything or doesn't really showcase anything that we haven't really seen before. And by the way, when it comes to using ChatGPT, just talk to it in a natural language and don't overthink what you say. So for example, if I tell it like, "Sup, can you give me ideas of what to do tonight?" then it's going to perform perfectly fine. And of course, you can and you should add some context to these prompts. So for instance, if you have a specific group of people in a specific location with specific needs and desires and in a specific mood, in a specific weather and whatnot, you can add all those things in these AI prompts. But you don't need to overthink it, so you don't need to worry about how you perform in the eyes of AI. So it will give you these answers, and in fact, it will give you the best answers if you're just yourself in front of it. So this is kind of a no-brainer. When you watch all these other tutorials where they say that you're using ChatGPT the wrong way, just buy this $2,500 course to learn more. And that is like completely useless. It's only going to make you scared and make you think that, okay, I'm not like clever enough to use AI. But here's the truth. Anyone can use AI, and that's actually the whole point of AI. Did you know that every single ChatGPT chat has its own unique URL? So for example, if I open up this chat that I just had like a minute ago, you can see that it has a unique URL. Now, if you have some information that you have either shared or the AI has shared that you want to come back later, you can bookmark this URL. So for instance, on Mac, I can hit or right-click this navigation menu, and I can click on Add Page. Then I can give it a name such as Ideas for Tonight, which is the name of the chat, and then I can hit Save. And now if I click on it, it will land me back to this specific conversation that I had with AI. So this is pretty cool in my opinion. This allows you to come back to the shared data or to these questions that the AI has answered in the past where you have some information that is worth coming back for. Then if you're spending a lot of time with ChatGPT, I highly recommend you activating this dark mode, which looks cool, but it's also easier for the eyes. And to do this, you can click on your profile, you can click on settings, and then you can click on this theme section where it says this setting name here, and you can choose the dark here. So for example, if we did light, there would be a lot of white color, but now that we're doing dark, it's going to be in the dark mode, and this is better for our eyes. And then one thing you might also want to do is give your chats a new name. So for example, these all have been renamed or named by the AI. So what I can do is I can click on these three dots and I can click on rename, and I can do something like, let's say, student party plans. So if this is a better name to describe the chat, and this way I can remember better what the chat was all about, because these AI given names are usually not that accurate, especially if the conversation is long. And also you can delete chats individually with these three dots. So you can click on here and just click on delete and confirm it by clicking on delete again. And this way you can get rid of your conversations one by one. And also you can delete all your conversations. And that happens by going to your profile, settings, and then click on delete all chats and then confirm deletion. And by the way, if you do this and if you have a lot of chats, nothing will happen at first. And you might be like, okay, do I need to do it again and again and again? But no, it's just taking a while. So this will take like a good minute or two for the AI to remove all the chats if you have a lot of those. So just don't get confused by that. And speaking of deleting stuff, you may have also noticed that when you're using ChatGPT, sometimes it says that the memory has been updated. And yes, there is an internal memory that allows you to basically just have a regular chat with ChatGPT, and it will learn things along the way. So if you say that I like hamburgers, it might update the memory so that next time it automatically knows that you like hamburgers. But this might also be a bit troublesome, because if you, for example, just tested and you state facts about yourself that are not true, then the ChatGPT might treat those as the source of truth, and your answers might be biased towards something that you're not. And that's why you might also want to remove the memory from time to time. And to do that, you can once again click on your profile and then settings and then personalization, and then click on clear memories. And this will erase all your memories. So everything that you have shared with ChatGPT will be gone. So now it will no longer be basing those answers like based on your data or information that you have shared in the past. And now that I have shown you these everyday tips as well as these ChatGPT interface tips, now it's time to look at these common use cases for AI or for ChatGPT. And one of my favorites is explaining science in simple terms. So for example, we can do something like explain quantum entanglements to a child. And this is an effective way to take a very complex and complicated concept and explain it to yourself as if you were a kid, so that you will 100% sure understand what is going on. And then obviously you can use AI to solve your homework. So for example, if here is our task, we can copy paste it here. And actually, if we have the premium model of ChatGPT, we can add the image of the task directly into the chat and say AI to solve it. And this is pretty incredible, but also one thing you can do, and one thing I recommend doing so that you will maximize learning as well, is to ask ChatGPT give you a step-by-step solution and perhaps even make yourself think a bit. So you can use the Socratic teaching method once again, or something like that, if you want to make the most out of it. And now ChatGPT is also helpful for creating tables. So for example, let's say that here is a leg day workout routine. And this is good, it's in a solid format, it looks nice, and it gives me exact instructions on what to do and how many times to do that. But let's be honest, this is not in a quickly readable format. So we can just tell the AI to create this or turn this into a table. And as soon as it starts to render the table, you can actually see that it does it here directly into the view of this ChatGPT. So it's not giving you a different file, or it is not doing any funky things. It's just giving you a flat out table here right in the chat. So this is pretty cool. And also you can take this table to the next level. So for example, we can tell to add a column here on the table on the right-hand side where I can actually mark the sets to be complete. And right now the AI is thinking again, and it will create this next column. And as you can see, here we have this number of sets on the right-hand side, and we can add a little checkbox here. Of course, it assumes that we're going to print this table, but this is still pretty creative, so you can actually modify your tables as well with ChatGPT. And in a big picture, this is awesome because the AI is not just there to add text or images, but it can do also sorts of formatting. So you can do code, tables, you can do files, you can do data visualizations, you can even do maps and product recommendations and whatnot. So it's not just text. And speaking of working with tables, ChatGPT is awesome when it comes to using Excel, because you have to use all these different formulas and equations that you will basically never learn unless you do it like every single day for a year or something like that. So you can just ask ChatGPT. So for example, let's ask it how it would sum the values of a column. And here it is. So if you want to sum the entire column, you can do this. Or if you want to sum to a specific value, you can do it like this. And then one really cool way for you to use ChatGPT is by creating a fitness and a nutrition plan. So you no longer need to buy a course from an influencer, or you don't need to hire a freelancer, personal trainer or whatever. You can just ask AI. And here the key is to provide it with the right type of information. So just let it know your goals and your plans, and if you have some limitations, food allergies, and something that is good to know. So basically you would be talking to AI like you were talking to a real personal trainer. So for example, here I'm creating this. This was a situation that I had like 10 years ago almost. So I'm 20, I weigh 70 kilograms, I'm very skinny, that is. I'm 193 centimeters in height. Give me a training plan and eating plan. So this is as simple as it is. And here you have, it is actually giving me the disclaimer that it's not a professional nutritionist or stuff like that. And then we have the training schedule. Then we have all the rep counts and the structure, then the progression tips, rest and recovery tips. We have the eating plan, breakdown. These are even some words that I'm not able to spell anymore. It's getting into such detail. And yeah, here you basically have something that you would get for like $300 from a professional, and that's out there for you in just 15 seconds. But obviously, read these disclaimers. So if you have limitations, if you want to be on the safe side, obviously I recommend you hiring a real professional instead of just trusting on these AI given plans. But because training is such a common thing to do and the nutrition is such a common topic, the AI has read a lot of content and seen everything in this space. So it has a very great chance to give you a really, really good training program that will give you exactly those results that a professional would. And in a very similar fashion, how you can plan your exercise and nutrition with AI, you can also plan your vacation. And traditionally, if you used Google, you could search for something like, for example, best things to do in Helsinki, and you would find those super generic and flooded with ads type of content that have been produced by some amateurs. But now that you have AI, it will combine everything it has seen on the internet. So it has read all these forums, it has read all these blog posts, even the bad ones, and it has gathered the knowledge. And now, instead of just asking the AI like best things to do in Helsinki, which can already give you some good results, you can literally describe what you want to do and what are your specific limitations and what kind of a group you're traveling with and what is your budget and whatnot. So we can do something like this, for example. So for example, here I've told the AI that I'm in Helsinki with 6 student friends of mine and we're 20 years old and it's summertime. We want some funny activities. We're only for 2 days. We've never been to Finland and we also are not sure where we should stay at night. As you can see, instead of giving this kind of a generic list, this time it actually gave me a lot of different options, and this is like 3 times longer than the initial answer that the AI gave me. And also here's a simple little summary as well. And now this is tailored towards our group. And then this next tip will take the job of all these AI gurus and consultants, because you can use AI or you can use ChatGPT to give you ideas for these best use cases for your specific situation or job position or whatever. So you can just literally tell as much as you want about yourself to the AI, and you can ask it for use cases for ChatGPT and AI in general. So for example, here I'm telling the AI that I'm a 28-year-old tech-savvy former developer working on blogs and YouTube video content. How can I use AI? And it will give me these recommendations. So content creation and enhancement, we can do script generation, content optimization, AI-driven SEO tools, keyword research, AI video editing tools, automated captioning, thumbnail, graphic design, AI chatbots, personalized content, and the list goes on and on and on. And although to me these are almost all of these are things that I have already considered because I've been doing this for such a long time, but as you can see, there are like 40 suggestions at least. And if there was like one thing to take away from this video, it would be that if you have never used AI, all you need to do is sign up to ChatGPT and tell what you're doing, what is your background, who you are, and then ask it, how can I use AI to maximize everything? And that way you will get the best results that are tailored towards your needs the best. So that's literally the cool part about using AI. So you don't need to hire a consultant. You don't need to listen to those online gurus that will only pitch you a $2,000 course. You can just ask AI how to use it. And then there is the ChatGPT voice conversation feature. I'm not sure what's the official name of that, but I know for a fact that it is a very powerful and very handy. So you can basically have a one-on-one voice conversation with it. And this was super useful when I, for example, was driving home late at night. I didn't want to listen to music or podcasts, so I just had a conversation with the AI where I was literally talking to it as if I was talking to some kind of an expert on a phone. So I was asking about marketing and sales funnels and stuff like that. And that was pretty cool because it provided me with some super useful information that I still remember to this day. And you can do this in the ChatGPT application. So all you need to do is download the real version of it and then just activate the voice icon, or click the voice icon on the right hand side in the chat box, and then it will allow you to have this one-on-one conversation, and you don't even need to hold your phone. So very similar to having a conversation or a phone call, you can just lay your phone down there. It doesn't even matter if the screensaver goes on or if it goes off, the conversation will still keep on going. And one thing I must mention is that you should not pay for the premium versions of ChatGPT unless you actually need those. And the best way to figure out if you need it or not is just by starting to use the AI in different scenarios and use cases in your everyday life. And if you always hit the limit where ChatGPT tells you that, okay, if you want to proceed, you need to purchase the premium plan, only then can you consider doing so. But for example, for me, even though I'm a blogger and I write blog posts, product reviews, I write a lot of emails, and I also write these video scripts, I haven't used the paid version of ChatGPT in almost a year now, because I just found out that, okay, the free version is more than enough for basically all of my use cases, and I very rarely hit the limit where I would need a paid plan to continue. So I would say that by a hunch, for 99% of the people, the free version is more than enough. And no, you are not missing out on something if you're not using the paid version. The paid version can only make things better for you if you're working in a specific role. So you can't really create something out of nothing. So if you're not working on a project where you can do heavy optimizations with the ChatGPT premium versions, just stay away from it. It is as simple as that. You're not missing out on anything. And one thing you always need to pay attention to is that you know the limitations of AI. So AI doesn't think. It doesn't go out there and talk to people. It doesn't test products, workflows. It doesn't even know what is an apple. So it just predicts words one after the other. So it's just an algorithm, a mathematical model that teaches itself, but it doesn't really know anything, and it doesn't really learn as we humans do. And that is a super important distinction, because you can make it say some things in a very convincing tone of voice and in a very factual manner, while the answer might be complete garbage. So whatever you write with ChatGPT might be factually incorrect, and whatever it says might be very hard for you to see if it's actually true or not. So if it gives you a link to a resource, check that resource. If it gives you an answer, make sure you understand what the answer is about so that you can then check if it's correct or not.